Hey you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day wherever you are. My name is Hannah and today I'm going to be showing you how I made this cowl neck dress, so let's get started.
Just pulled up to the house, don't feel like getting out. I'ma just lay back and crack this window. I've been doing my best, taking a moment to rest, feeling stressed out. Give it a good, I put that on God when it gets.
To make this dress, you're going to need this body measurement, and I will first start with the vertical measurement so that it's easier to understand for beginners. The first measurement is your shoulder to bust measurement. The second measurement is your bust to waist measurement. The third measurement is your waist to hips measurement. And the last measurement is your shoulder to desired length, and mine will be a maxi length. For our horizontal measurement, the first measurement is going to be your full bust measurement. The second measurement is going to be your full waist measurement. And the last measurement is going to be your full hips measurements. I have started by folding this pattern paper in half, and I'm going to mark 1 inch down and draw a straight line, and this is going to be the shoulder line. From the shoulder line, I'm going to mark my shoulder to bust measurement, which is 9.5 inches, and I will draw a straight line. This line will be the bust line. From the bust line, I'm going to measure my bust to waist measurement, which is 6 inches, and I will draw a line. This will be the waistline. From the waistline, I'm going to mark down my waist to hip measurement, which is 9.5 inches, and I will draw a line. This is going to be my hip line. The next measurement will be our shoulder measurement to desired length, and I wanted mine to be a maxi, so it's about 52 inches long, and I will draw a line. This is going to be the skirt length line. From the shoulder line, I'm going to mark 5 inches down, and this will be the upper chest line. And from the bust line, I'm going to mark up 1 inch, and this is where the armhole will be. Now we will start by marking our horizontal measurement, and I'll start by marking my quarter bust measurement, which is 8.5 inches, and I'll mark it on the bust line, and I'll repeat the same on the line above. On the waistline, I'm going to mark my quarter waist measurement, which is 7 inches. On the hip line, I'm going to mark 10 inches, which is the quarter of my hips measurement. On the skirt length line, I'm going to mark my quarter hip measurement again, which is 10 inches, and then I'm going to deduct 1 inch from that mark. On the chest line, I'm also going to mark my quarter bust measurement, which was 7 inches. And on the line that is above my bust line, I'm going to extend it by half an inch, and then I will use a curved ruler to connect it to the chest line. Next step, we're going to connect this mark to the waistline, and then from the waistline we are going to use a curved ruler to draw a line from the waistline to the hip line. Then from the hip line we are going to draw a straight line all the way to the skirt length. And after that we are going to go ahead and cut. This is how our pattern looks so far. Next, I'm going to be marking 16 inches, which is the length of my slit, and I've already made a mark. You can decide to make your slit higher or lower if you like. Since I had folded my pattern paper in half, I'm going to transfer these markings on the back piece, and I'll open this up, and then I'm going to cut in the middle so that we can be able to have a front dress pattern and a back dress pattern. On the back dress pattern, I'm going to add half an inch allowance on this line, and then I will cut. This will be my new back pattern, and then I'm going to duplicate this to create my lining. Now we are going to work on our cowl neck pattern, and we will take the front dress pattern, and since we are going to do the slash and spread method, I'm going to be making about 4 lines from the bust line, which are 1 inch apart, like so. And then I'm going to draw a straight line. Then after that, I'm going to take my scissors and I will cut, but make sure that you don't cut all the way through. And after cutting, I will take another piece of pattern paper and I'll fold it in half. This is because I also want to make my lining as I make my front piece. Next, I'm going to spread these slashed pieces with a space of about 2 inches wide. So in short, all pieces will be 2 inches apart. You can decide to make yours 1 or 1.5 inches wide, depending on how deep you want your cowl neck to be. And after I finished spreading, I went ahead and taped the pieces together onto the pattern paper, and then from there I will draw a line with my ruler at the top, and then I'll trace the sides till the waist. Next, I'm going to add half an inch sewing allowance at the top of my dress, and as you noticed, I did not add any allowance on the sides. This is because I'm using a stretchy fabric and I'm going for a fitted look. If you want a loose fit, then you can add about half an inch of allowance, and for those who want a tight fit, you can deduct about half an inch to 1 inch allowance from your horizontal measurement. So now I'm going to open this and I'll be cutting in the middle so that we can have a front piece and a front lining. For the straps, I cut a piece of pattern paper that is about 14 inches long and 1.5 inches wide, and you're going to want to cut 4 pieces on your fabric. Next, we are going to be cutting our pattern on fabric, and I'll start by folding my fabric in half, and then I'll place the back piece pattern with the center back on the fold line. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut the back piece, and I'll repeat the same for the front piece and the linings. After cutting all the pieces out, you should have one piece of front piece that is cut on a fold, a back piece, back and front lining which are also cut on fold, and lastly 4 pieces of straps. Our next step is sewing our pieces together, and I'll start by sewing my 4 straps. So you're going to take one strap, fold it in half with the right sides facing each other, and then you will sew on the longest side and one short side. And I'll be sewing this with a 3/8 of an inch sewing allowance, and we are going to be using a zigzag stitch since we are working with stretch fabric. After you're done sewing all the straps, then you will take your scissors and trim down the excess allowance, and after that you'll turn the piece inside out. After you're done with all the straps, we will keep them aside and we'll start working on our front and back piece. For the front and back piece, first I'm going to cut a little snip on both pieces. This is where we marked our slit. For the next step, I'm going to take my front piece and my lining, and then I'm going to place them together with the right sides facing each other. Then I'm going to take 2 straps and I will measure half an inch away from the top edges, and then I will mark on the lining and the main fabric, and this is where we'll be placing our straps. The next step, I'm going to be taking one strap and I will be placing it in between the lining and the main fabric on the mark that we made earlier, and I'll repeat the same on the other side. And after that, I'm going to pin the strap in place. After pinning it in place, I'm going to go ahead and sew around the armhole, around the top, till the other armhole, and I'll be sewing with a half an inch sewing allowance. After sewing the pieces together, I'm going to trim down the excess allowance, and then I will turn this piece inside out, and as you can see, our cowl neck is already looking good at this point. I'm going to put the front piece aside and I'll start working on my back piece. Now we're going to be sewing our back piece and lining, and I'm going to take my lining and I'll place it on top of the back piece with the right sides facing each other. I'm going to mark the midpoint of my back piece, and then from the midpoint I will mark about 4.5 inches from the mark that we made on each side. Then I'm going to be placing the 2 straps in between the main fabric and the lining on the 4.5 mark that we made before. This is just the same as we did on our front piece, and then I will pin it in place and sew with a half an inch sewing allowance. And after sewing, we are going to trim down the excess allowance, and then we're going to turn this piece inside out. Next step, we're going to be placing our back piece and our front piece together with the right sides facing each other, and then we're going to sew with a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. And for the slit, I'm going to sew until that mark that we made, and I'll be only sewing one slit. You can decide to do 2 slits if you want, but I'll be sewing just one. After sewing the sides, the last step is hemming our slit, and we will do that by folding it in like so. And lastly, we will hem the bottom of our skirt by folding it in 1 inch twice. And after you've sewn the slit and you've hemmed your skirt, we are done. So this is the final look for this dress, and I really love it. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Anyway, have a good day and God bless. Bye.